welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to come to my session. We'll talk today about how we move from AI features to agentic workflows. So I'll try and cover quite a bit of range today in terms of a bit of customer impact, how you think about it, but also how you start thinking about context, which is key to any AI interaction. Before we do that, just a bit about myself. Andrei, Director of Product Innovation. I'm leading AI and product engineering at Sitecore. Joined just last year and was part of the group that led the birth of Sitecore AI. An honor to be part of that, and I'm hoping to hear more of your feedback through these sessions. I spent basically the last 10 years building loads of MarTech solutions in the real-time interaction space, in the customer journey space, CDP space, experiences. Looking to bring a different dimension to Sitecore going forward as we think about that one-to-one personalization. I'm based in Brighton, so if anyone's visiting Brighton, come and say hello. Happy to meet up. If you want to reach out via email, if you got any feedback, do reach out. Andrei.pop, really easy, at sitecore.com. Okay, so what we'll talk about today, just briefly touch upon the shift that we're living through, and I'll give you more context in a second on that. How brand kits right now is the foundation that you should be investing in if you're thinking about building on Sitecore AI, and not just only on Sitecore AI, if you're thinking of orchestrating marketing experiences and marketing jobs for whatever you do. How we're shaping some of the AI skills behind Sitecore AI, and how you can use the initial release of that. And I'm looking also here for feedback going forward on what you want to see, what are the skills you want to kind of be able to use as part of the workflows that you're building. How context now has become key to Agentic Studio, and I'll talk through some examples there. How you start from nothing and it just gives you the context. You may have seen some of that, a sneak peek in Martin's conversations this morning on MCP. And also I'll talk about how you can bring Sitecore AI to every environment that you work in. So any LLM that you work in through the agent API, through the MCPs themselves. And that's about it in terms of what I want to cover. And then I'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions. With that being said, I think the shift that we're seeing right now is that we're still working in this fragmented tools, and we're still handing off copy and pasting text in between LLMs, in between chat windows, etc. And I was talking to a customer yesterday who were talking exactly about the same problem. They receive a PDF, they have to create a task somewhere, then they have to look at the task, assign it to another person, the other person then creates another 3 tasks, you go into another 3 systems, and eventually 2 weeks later, maybe you get to the end goal. So we're continuing to bring features to the table that reshape that. So we see agentic orchestration as the key leap into producing this multi-step outcomes end to end. And I'll talk through some of those features and how you can achieve that today through Sitecore AI. But really the catch is that it's not just about orchestrating a multi-step process. The catch is also that you need to think about how do you bring context into that? How do you bring the right context so you don't go off brand, you don't waste time as you build those orchestration flows. So context is essentially key, and this is the thing that you probably are dealing with if you're a developer as well. If you think about like the spec-driven development approach to things, this is permeating into marketing as well, in terms of how do you bring the specs into what you're doing and how you're thinking about the workflow that you're orchestrating. Without that, it's just you get a confident guesser with AI itself. So firstly, where I would point you if you think about context is brand kits. And to me, that's the foundation of how you need to think about when it comes to Sitecore AI, or how you shape your context for your agentic workflows. And it starts with, if you're not familiar, it starts with the brand kit interface. So now that's available as part of Sitecore AI. And you simply go into this interface, you upload all your brand documents, all the documents that contain that contextual information about the tone of voice, about how you want to go to market. And through that, we will shape, essentially, we'll ingest that information, and we will shape the context for agents in a second. And this is just a stepping stone as the next step of what happens behind the scenes once you ingested that information. You have this kind of additional layer of the sections within the brackets themselves, which give you the ability to also augment some of the context. So one of the things that, if you think about when you ingesting context at large scale for your brands, you need to think about also how do you go in and review this. And this is the kind of the review layer where you can actually go in and probe, is the brand purpose that's been determined based on these documents really aligned with how we're thinking about the brand? So you can edit this. So it gives you an opportunity to review and edit, but also gives you an opportunity to enrich further. And in a second, all of this will be the foundational layer that essentially supports all your agentic use cases. And you'll see this throughout some of the demos that I have in a second of how this is getting pulled into Agentic Studio workflows, how you can bring this to any workflow that you have, how you can bring this into some of the Content Hub workflows as well, and how you can think about this from an MCP orchestration perspective as well. Also, what we released, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the changelog, how we're extending this further. So based on customer feedback, and we'd love to hear more feedback in terms of the things that you want to see. We extended this into glossary and location, so really providing through the bracket translation memory now. So when you go into Sitecore AI and translate any pages or any sites, you can provide this glossary and localization. It simply starts from a user experience perspective with selecting your source language. So this is what you're going to anchor all the terms into. So what do you want translated, not translated? And how do you shape this into the different languages that you want to see translated? And then you would go into the interface, and I can probably zoom in a bit here just so you see better. You would go into the interface. So here my brand is powerful, just the brand that we're using as Sitecore for demos. And I say, actually, if you think about it from a translation perspective, you don't want to translate the brand name anywhere in any language most of the times. Sometimes you might want to do this, but in my example, I don't want to translate this. So it's really easy to kind of stipulate that. And then, my poor man's example here in terms of hello. So you can translate hello for different languages in a specific way. So if you want to address your users in a specific way for those languages, you can do that. So you can apply that to all locales. If you don't have all the locales, you have visibility really nicely in here in terms of where the gaps are and what you need to kind of add. And all of this will be considered now as context to anything your agents do in Sitecore AI, anything that happens through the translation interface itself. Really excited about this evolution of context, and looking forward to your feedback in terms of what do you want to see next in terms of translation. I know this is a big topic for many of our customers. And it looks like my slides are stopped. So the other area, just thinking about the community and having loads of developers in the room, how we're thinking about everything at Sitecore is how do we make things API first as well. So everything that I showed you in terms of the user experience and the fact that you go through as a user and upload the documents, you need to kind of push updates to the documents, you need to retrieve those sections. It's available through an API. So you can reference this in any integrations that you have, or you can manage this in your agentic integrations where you can pull in the API and upload the documents into the brackets, sync the guidelines, track the document versions. All of this gives you granularity, and it gives you granularity from my perspective in, being able to pull documentation from a SharePoint or DAM through the document API and keep it up to date in brackets. So it gives you that ability to auto sync, gives you the ability to manage this for multiple brands at scale really easily. So through the APIs, you'll be able to just do that. If you have CI/CD that requires brand compliance, you can pull this brand information in real time, and you can review any of the content against the brand guidelines and understand if they're on brand or not. And last but not least, also you can think about this, many of the customers that I've been talking to at SUGCON so far, they've been talking about how they're moving into this omni-channel world. So you can actually pull this information through an API now as context and apply it to the different sources of truth that you're trying to, engage your users with, be it email, social, ads, etc. So you can apply this really easily in terms of context in the workflows that you're building, maybe as developers, maybe as companies as well. And it's flexible. It provides automation, so it's really easy to kind of re-upload through this APIs. It's scalable. You can do hundreds of brand kits across different markets. So if you are actually a partner and you manage different things, I would suggest this is the way to go. And it gives you the latest context always through the API. So it's a neat way of integrating, if you're thinking of that integration layer through the brand kit APIs. What's coming next? Just a sneak peek. We're evolving the brand kit itself. So we're thinking about really that folder structure and how do you bring that folder structure to the marketing persona, to the marketing user, and thinking about how do you pull from a website the audience, how do you pull the competitors, the campaigns, how do you link that across Sitecore through the graph? So you've seen some of those elements in Derek's sessions if you attended that in terms of the UDL. We want to pull that information straight into the context and evolve this automatically. And it then gets linked to the brand kits itself. So it evolves. So you have brand kits where you supply your documents. You have some of the context related to the translations, but this evolves into a whole contextual kind of spec, if you want to think about it like that. It's a specification about how your business operates, and that specification gets pulled in real time into different agentic workflows. So this is the direction that we're taking going forward, how we're thinking about context long term. And we're not stopping there. One of the things that we released, I want to say like a couple of months ago, both from an API perspective and also from a marketplace application integration perspective, is the idea of AI skills. And we want to continue to build on this. These are actually fully built kind of skills that give you immediate value. And one of the first ones that we focused on, it was, again, based on kind of feedback that we received from the community and customers. It was the brand review API skill. So this gives you the opportunity to essentially take any content that you have. So think about literally any platform that content lives in. And given that you added all your guidelines to the brand kit, you can evaluate this in real time. And it gives you a score in terms of how compliant your content is with the brand itself. So what it evaluates, it's 5 pieces of key information. So is your brand context, is the content that you're evaluating on brand from a context and identity perspective? Is the content aligned with your tone of voice? Is the content aligned with the do's and don'ts? So that's something that you can actually set up in brand kits in terms of what you should really follow from a brand perspective or what you shouldn't never follow. So some of our customers, for example, from a don't perspective, they have do not ever kind of search for products here. If you're searching for products, make sure you go to the product department and talk to them, because they're very strict about how they deal with product information in that context. You have grammar checklists as well, and you have visual guidelines. So it's the whole kind of spectrum of thinking, if you think about content, the visual pieces, but also the documentation pieces. And what you get in return is a compliance score. So you get a 1 to 5, depending on how compliant it is. And then you get detailed reasoning per field, how it aligns with the brand kit documentation. So if you invested in the brand kits, you would get this information out of the box. You get suggestions on how to improve this. And also you would get granularity in terms of the section, the subsections that this applies to. And also there's multi-format input support in there as well. It's available today. So if you go to essentially the API documentation, you can access this. Or if you're building a marketplace app, you have this available through the marketplace. And I'll talk to that also in a second. To make it more kind of visual, talk about kind of a real example of how to do this. So this is actually Content Hub. And in Content Hub, as you know, you can easily add customization to the user interface. And we have at the top a brand review button that you can access. And essentially, as you're looking at content in Content Hub, what you can do is now call, if you integrated this, you can call the brand review functionality. So this is going to go in real time to an LLM. So there's a few seconds in terms of analyzing the content itself, and it's going to analyze the content against the brand. And as I said, now it's going to give you, maybe I'm just going to pause it, go back. So it's going to give you a set of information around, just going to zoom in there in terms of the guidelines, in terms of, the detailed checklist that we have in terms of, the image. Does it show an indication of the style that has been set up? And what I want you to see kind of next is it's going to tell you the suggestions. So if you scroll down in a second, it's going to say that it's about pleasantly organized things, chaos, which is a thing that this brand has. And that's the reason why this image is not on brand. So you get immediate real-time information in terms of the connection into the context. So you invested into the context. You have set, these are the brand guidelines. This is tone of voice. This is what I need to align to. And now you have a way to qualify any content in almost real time. Obviously, we're talking about LLM, so as fast as the LLM is providing the answer on top of Sitecore AI. And this, from a functionality perspective, comes free with Sitecore AI. So I suggest you go and invest in it. So yeah, this is an example of bringing this into Content Hub. So you can bring this anywhere. So we have a customer that we're talking to, a big hotel group, not going to name them, but they want to bring them into Frontify. They want to bring them into the SharePoint. They actually love this. The idea of I have a central place where I upload all the brand information. Typically that's in people's heads usually. And now all of a sudden you can bring any content to it and it tells you, is it on brand? Is it not? If you think about it also from an image generation perspective, the direction that we're going into, this is crucial, as you're generating images, at scale probably in an enterprise. How do you validate if these are on brand? They should go live from a kind of agent quality perspective. So if you're a developer in the room, I strongly kind of encourage you to think about how do you bring this into that workflow of evaluating, QAing, having a stepping stone to say, okay, I want to put some images into review that's been generated, but the first step is maybe doing the brand review and see what passes or not the brand review, and then you have a human review as a follow-up. So it gives you that initial kind of quick win from a brand perspective. And talking about kind of the evolution of context, also I wanted to take you through Agentic Studio and how context now has become the key kind of central point of everything that happens in Agentic Studio, and it's going to continue to grow from that perspective. And really what this really helps you to do is just orchestrate again those true agentic workflows anchored into the context of the brand. And the context of anything that you think of in Sitecore AI. So here's a simple example. I was trying to think of something that kind of resonates quickly. The thing that everyone is looking for right now. How can I improve my website for AEO, SEO? Really easy. Actually, you can go into, I encourage you, if you have Agentic Studio access, just go into the chat and literally mimic this. Can you analyze the homepage? In this case, it's for my looks. For my looks is something that we use for demos. But in this case, you call out your kind of the sites that you want analyzed, and you just say simply for AEO, SEO. And essentially what's going to happen is we're going to put this into the chat, and it's going to think away. The LLM is going to go away, start retrieving the context in a second. So it's going to go through the integration that we made with the Agent API. So this is again an evolution. If you've been at Symposium, it's an evolution of the Agent API and how we're thinking about context, kind of making it into the different parts of the Sitecore AI ecosystem. It's going to retrieve the pages and it's going to get the context of the homepage that I'm looking to essentially improve. So you can see already you have the homepage there. It gets also the HTML, so you can see the context, the raw context of the page. And it says yeah, I can help you, improve your AEO, SEO. These are the things that, I can do from you. So I can update the homepage title in this case. I can remove some of the meta keywords that seem to be obsolete. I can fix some typos. I can replace some of the things. I can improve some of the English on the page. So then we go like, yes, let's do this. So you have essentially the human in the loop aspect in it. So it always kind of checks, do you want to proceed here? So then it says like, yeah, I can go and change the meta keywords based on the content of the page. And essentially now the LLM is going to go and retrieve that information again from the context that it has here, together with the context of the page. And then it's going to improve the AEO and GEO meta tags for this particular page. So based on this, it comes back like, yeah, I've made the content changes that I needed to make to align this to the product. So sofas and chairs. So it came back with the relevant kind of replacement that it wants to make. And I say like, yeah, I want to add now these keywords. So there's a couple of like human in the loop steps that you're going through to make sure that information is correct. And then you can see that the agent API updated it. This is an previous look where I had test, if you look there. And then if you refresh the page based on the action from the agent, you can see the information being updated on the page. So now you have all this information, by interacting with an agent automatically there. So it's a really quick win that you can go through as a customer or as a partner as well that works with many customers to use Agentic Studio to improve AEO SEO from this perspective. Also, we support more extensive contextual data points now. So in terms of brand kits, you can reference these. Obviously, I'm in a demo environment here, but you can see Formulux has been selected as I interact in any actions that I want to give the agent. Skills and this ability to essentially produce repeatable workflows. You can reference the MCPs, and we'll look to add more MCPs. You can bring in different tools. Also, you can attach specific files. So there's a lot of contextual pieces that you can bring into the orchestration itself if you have a simple kind of chat interaction through Agentic Studio. But also you can orchestrate workflows. And we have shaped this idea of spaces where you can, for example, I'm building, a campaign on my square sofas. This is my new product that I'm launching. And really, if you think about it, what I need to do some research in the market. I want to generate some content. And then also, I want to translate that content. And what I can do here from a contextual perspective, I can bring in the context of the page. So what I have today in terms of the products, and you can simply add that as context. And actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to bring in the sofas because that's the relevant kind of context that I want to bring in. And I'm going to remove the products. And now with this context and also the kind of the brand kits themselves, which is key. So the Formulux kind of brand kit information. Now I can really orchestrate my new product campaign and pages for the different languages by doing some research and then taking that research, doing some content generation, and then translating that as part of a workflow. So this is some of the new functionality that's been available through the March release. So I really encourage you to go and take a look at it. And there's different ways to kind of add in here, different collaborators. So if you're looking to collaborate as part of the space, that's something that you can do. If you're looking to work in a canvas, that's something else that we brought out as a preview. So looking to get feedback into that. But this is a simple kind of workflow to get you thinking about what you can achieve through Agentic Studio. So looking forward to getting some more of a feedback on this. And I talked for a brief second about skills. So how you can orchestrate workflows if you think about it. So we took it from the simple workflow where you just have a chat. Then we talked about, okay, you can bring in all these perspectives. And then we talked about how you build that kind of agentic workflow of different agents working together and passing the context from one agent to the other. But the thing that I really encourage you to kind of spend some time kind of researching as well is skills and this idea of, so this is available now in Agentic Studio, but it's this idea of like, okay, as you do these jobs, what are the repeatable things that you find yourself doing again and again? And add this to Agentic Studio to maximize the kind of the productivity of everyone. And that's the idea of Agentic Studio. Everyone works together, everyone comes together from your company. You shape up these workflows that you go through. You automate them through the ability to create agentic workflows in itself, but then also what are the skills that you can give to these agents. So for example, here, I think I have a skills from a competitive analysis perspective, something that I'm doing again and again. I'm doing a competitive analysis. The competitive analysis typically looks at these points in terms of, okay, identifying maybe, the latest news in the market about these 5 competitors. Then it goes and kind of does some more research in terms of what they posted on socials, etc., and then collates it together in a certain format that then you feed into a campaign to kind of shape your communication. So think about what are those repeatable processes and turn them into skills, and then bring those skills into the agentic workflows themselves. And how you can really shape that from, because I said like, hey, bring them in, is really think about how you can customize this from an agent perspective. So we have all these out-of-the-box agents to kind of help you shape things. But if you go to something like Snackable content generator, it's as simple as, you duplicate it, obviously give it your good name that you want to give it. And as part of that, now you get the ability to shape the workflow itself. You get the ability to set up HTML templates, but also you get the ability to export this. So if you're a bit more technically savvy, or even if you're not, I encourage you to export this into a GPT and go like, tell me how I can augment this for my brand. Staying within the grounding of what you see here in terms of the JSON itself, because ultimately it's a configuration file. So staying within the grounding of this configuration file, how can I augment this to my brand? What are the changes that I need to make? And then re-import this back. And this gives you a customized workflow to your brand. So if you think about producing snackable content for your brand, like what are the channels that your brand is kind of targeting, you can change that in the JSON. You can change the prompting within it. So think about how you can shape some of this. And I know we have like kind of limited time for today, so happy to have follow-up sessions if you're interested in kind of diving deeper into some of this. And what's coming next in terms of agentic orchestration? So agentic orchestration is going to move into the context. I know I see some smiles in the room, but it's finally moving into the context of being able to do some of this more in the workflow that you live in. So we heard about this. Hey, a lot of folks, kind of work on pages. They want to be able to understand, what is the confidence level from maybe a review perspective, but also from an AEO/GEO perspective. Bringing that data into this, or you're doing a translation in this case. You're trying to translate something. I want to translate that in the context of what I'm doing, to be able to see it, to be able to review all the elements of it. So this is something that's coming next in terms of loads of these agents being available right into the pages. So you can actually orchestrate within the context that you find yourself. So you don't have to specifically move to Agentic Studio for some of the things, but you will have workflows that you would have to kind of build an Agentic Studio. So if you think about that kind of workflow that I talked about of like, hey, I want to do some research on the back of the research. I want to create a set of content pieces. Then I want to kind of push those content pieces into different translations. Some of those workflow actually make sense to live in that kind of agentic workflow space. Okay, so you invested in brand kits. You also adopted skills. You're working with Agentic Studio. This is all within the Sitecore AI environment, but you can bring Sitecore AI to any, environment that you live in through, what we build with the Agentic API, the Agent API and the Marketeer MCP, to build more generic or more specific workflows, or maybe your enterprise is enforcing, a certain co-pilot to use, and you can bring the Marketeer MCP and Sitecore into that. And this is part of the vision of the Sitecore AI vision. Obviously, we started with this deterministic orchestration through the Agent API. So really thinking about, okay, how do we build an API that is not just about, create, read, update, delete, but more about, okay, the intent that you're trying to have like a marketeer. So you're trying to, create a page, you're trying to add a component, you're trying to set up a personalization, etc. How do we think about this from a job to be done perspective? So that was the intention here. how do we make this interoperable so you can bring this to, in this case, to Sitecore AI. We can bring this to custom agent implementation. We can bring this to the marketplace as well. And how do we make this so it's easy to authenticate? We heard from many of the developers, different ways to authenticate in Sitecore. We need to kind of think about that. And one of the key things as well, how do we think about, from an agentic perspective, about rollback? Because agent gets things wrong. So you have the ability to essentially roll back to, by using this API, you have in there like a job that you can actually track, and you can revert back on that job if the LLM that you're using, you're integrating with, does this wrong. And there's a set of capabilities that are available. I won't spend too much time going through them, but you see them here in terms of the sites, in terms of the page and the components. You can have some content management, as to media, and you can shape this for different languages and personalize. Also, recently we added brief creation support. I don't know if you've seen that on the changelogs. So definitely continue to give us feedback on the things that you want to see. Some of that was shaped by how Agentic Studio also continues to grow. So you have basically the ability to now orchestrate briefs as part of Agentic Studio with the context. So for that to happen, the agent API had to grow. And then we're looking to release the experiments API soon. Also, all of this is available in the marketplace. So if you're using the marketplace SDK, if you're a developer in the room, or if you're a savvy customer who's dipped their toes into the marketplace app building, you have access to the agent API and also to the brand review API. So we're thinking about this holistically. How do we bring this across the ecosystem? I think on the first day, Scott talked about, Studio and the importance of Studio and that pluggability that gives you into Sitecore AI and the ability to build on top, to customize SaaS. This is why we're thinking about bringing all these new APIs into the marketplace, to give you the flexibility to build anything on top of the marketplace ideas that you have. Here's a kind of an example of someone that I've been working with, who've been building essentially this idea of synthetic audiences on top of Sitecore AI, specifically using the agent APIs. So you have here a chat interface that suggests some content that might be relevant to change it for this page based on the audience data that has been pulled in, and based on the page context itself. So again, a very much a human-in-the-loop approach where you interact with the chat agent in here. And if I was to zoom in a bit, maybe on the chat agent, suggest any content in my hero component, and it goes like, I suggest something like affordable, respectable care for every neighbor. This is a kind of a care company. Right now it says the pinnacle of private healthcare, which is probably not as engaging from a user perspective. And then as a user, I go like, I want to make this update. So through the power of the agent API and the fact that you have this context, you'll see the page gets updated in real time. So you have plenty of opportunity in terms of how you can integrate now with context within the pages itself. So that's one example. Also, credit to Chris. He's been building this on YouTube. So this idea of like, okay, how do you bring the agent and the brand review APIs together? Because now they live into the marketplace SDK itself. So he's got a page here. Obviously, he's built his own page. He's trying to get it more on brand. He's got his brand guidelines in. It's a bit of a demo, but it gives you the idea. And now if we go through it, he's gonna like prompt it. Can you please take the content and make it more on brand for the current page? Think about the components. Think about everything on this page that can be more aligned to the brand itself. And then the agent is going to go away and analyze. Again, like I said, through the brand review API, which you get for free from Sitecore AI. And then the page itself is going to get updated. So it just gives you a flavor of the art of the possible. So it comes back similar to before with like, what are the changes from a grammar perspective that should be considered? What are the changes from the content itself that should be considered? And then it just updates those changes in real time. So it just refreshes the page. It has the ability to refresh the page through that marketplace app, and you get the updates already. So this is a way of automating the pages workflow to align it more with the brand. So think about how you can bring some of that, especially if you're a partner, how you can bring some of that functionality into the pages ecosystem through marketplace apps. And that's not it, because obviously the agent API was the foundation of how we're thinking about what comes next. And we knew, we wanted an MCP that supports, again, marketeers from a job to be done perspective. And what this MCP allows you to do, if you're more of a savvy marketeer that, knows how to quickly connect an MCP, and it's really easy. You just plug in a URL. Or if you're a developer working in Cursor, you can bring that in. And that allows you to now call through natural language any instructions in terms of what you're trying to achieve. So simply use natural language prompting in Claude, in Cursor, wherever you find yourself. And those requests are securely passed into Sitecore AI, and they're being actioned in Sitecore AI depending on your instruction. You can think here of, if you're working with launching campaigns, faster. We heard, for example, just to give you like a more interesting kind of sales example, our sales team typically go away, build, demos for customers that they sell to. They took that from weeks to days, basically. They orchestrated all of that through the MCP itself. So it has different uses from if you're a partner and you're looking to kind of build something quickly to show to a prospect, you can use the MCP to do that. If you're a customer, obviously, you can launch some of your campaigns a lot faster. You can ground them into the other MCPs that you have connected. So you can bring something like Asana into the equation. You can connect it into your Google Drive itself, and you can orchestrate all of that. You can scale content globally. You can use the translations as part of this and then push them through the MCP into Sitecore AI. You can personalize the scale. And also you can do typical reviews through your LLM as long as the MCP is connected. It can pull the data out. It can do a review and tell you the areas that you should improve on from a marketing quality perspective, for example. And just to make this visual, and relatable, if you've seen the latest video. So here I am a marketeer. I work in Asana. I have a task that I received to bring out a new page for the new sofas that we have. We love sofas as Cycle. I have my MCPs that's connected, including the marketeer MCP. And I just go to Claude, where I work. Claude is my favorite as a marketeer today. And I just say, help me complete the task that I have. And it goes to Asana. It finds the tasks. And then it goes like, yeah, I'm just going to action this task now. And it, through the MCP, gets the content, creates the page itself. And in a matter of minutes, I have a preview link to what I was meant to do as a marketeer for my boss. So now I can take a coffee break and enjoy that for an extra 15 minutes. And that information, you can see it's available immediately in Sitecore AI. So just as a sneak peek of what you can do. And last not least, I don't even have to go and complete the task in Asana because it's just completed for me. So I think this is how we see the workflows for marketeers shaping up in the future, and want to play a key role there from that perspective of having a strong MCP presence in this ecosystem. And this is just an example of what you can do. The sky's the limit in terms of connecting MCPs, connecting agents with the MCP itself for the different workflows that you have with your customers and talk to your customers. And we're continuing to evolve this. We want to make it easier to kind of bring that into any tool that you have. So we're looking to publish this publicly, working with both Anthropic and OpenAI to kind of bring this in a more public space as well, to make it easier. You can easily add it today through the URL, but we know that's like an added effort. So we're looking to make that even more easier, thinking about the user experience. We talked about experiments, so bringing that ability to create page level and component level A/B testing. Some of the feedback that we've been hearing specifically here is like, okay, I maybe have thousands of these personalizations or A/B tests that I want to create. All of a sudden, through the MCP, you can scale that up. You can just give the agent the task, and it goes away, and overnight it produces that, scale of. And we're getting to a place, actually, we're having a conversation from a product level perspective. We're having a conversation of how now you're getting even more closer to that true one-to-one personalization. Up to now, we've been talking about it a lot, if we think about it, but who was going to create all that content? Now, all of a sudden, through the tools that you have, like the MCP, you can actually scale this, and through agents themselves, you can scale this. So this is going to give you the ability to scale that, but also create those fast optimizations loops. So if you think about it, if you have, the ability to create the experiment, you also can have an agent that reviews the results of the experiment and create more experiments on the back of it. So the loop kind of gets a bit infinite, but it's a good opportunity to start dipping into this once the feature comes out. And also we're thinking about this as Content Hub finally comes closer to Sitecore AI. We will enable more functionality around the new media library that's showing up there, being able to kind of upload assets. So if you have assets that are existing in Sitecore AI and you're looking to move into the space, we'll make that easier from you from that perspective again, and how you're shaping that from a connection with different sources of content that you have there to be able to bring the data closer, faster into Sitecore AI. So yeah, from my perspective, look, the tools are there, the public, go and use them. But yeah, the question, isn't is it going to work? It's whether did you give it the right context to work? And I think that's what I continuously kind of stress from my perspective, and it's an area that I'm going to focus on going forward. Is how do you think about context, and how do you bring that context into everything that you do? So make sure that you think about the blankets, make sure that you think about the AI skills as you orchestrated that, make sure you think about the workflows and how you bring context into that, and just build something that didn't exist before and give us feedback. We love the feedback. And with that, that was me. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions, and if you want to connect, definitely connect with me. I think there's one question over there. Oh, good.
For the chat assistant examples that you were showing, was that was the LLM that you were interacting with, was that third party, or was that actually a service that Sitecore was offering from when it was extended, essentially?
So in the marketplace, the first example, the partner example, was an external. So that's what the flexibility of the marketplace gives you. Let's have a conversation about how you can connect into Sitecore AI. For the brand review itself, that connects into Sitecore AI. So as long as you have, the kind of Sitecore AI with AI enabled, you sign all the legal documentation. For brand review, you get that for free. For the rest, happy to have a chat of how do we enable some of that for you. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, there's a question.
Is the design system Is the design system part of the blanket, or that's separate?
When you say the design system, help me understand what you're thinking there.
Like in Sitecore AI, there's a design system, right, for fonts and elements.
You mean the block MCP?
No,
design
not the
system?
block, not the Sitecore design system, but
Okay, the Sitecore inside. Okay, so the page design system that exists there, is that what you're referring to?
and the component builder or something.
Not yet, but I think that's a good area of feedback to kind of improve into. I haven't thought of that one. Yeah,
Because it's part of the brand, right?
so you would have to upload that into the blanket. So right now that's not connected. So something that we need to take as a piece of feedback and improve on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, hopefully this was useful. Thank you so much.